This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up, everybody? Ricky Widmer here, along with the Mark Weber.
Dub them ease.
And we're back for another edition of the Onside Kick here on Most Valuable Podcast. Either if you're on YouTube, hello guys, or if you're listening to our beautiful voices on Blog Talk Radio, iTunes, or Stitcher. Got a little bit of house cleaning. Onside Kick is where we talk about all the NFL news and analysis. This is where I'm doing housekeeping. Did I say house cleaning again?
You did.
Like we've had commenters. We've had commenters say it's housekeeping, not
it
house
is housekeeping.
Cleaning. We're going to do some housekeeping before the podcast starts. Have a little bit more than usual. The first one, like I say every time, check out patreon.com/Most Valuable Podcast if you have not already. The big thing, we're going to thank Patrick Hill for pledging the $10. I was thinking of the word. I'm like, pledging $10. Mark, he's going to be on a podcast next month.
Yep. And you can too.
You can too. Patreon.com/Most Valuable Podcast.
And quick shout out to all of the $5 and $10 dollar patrons.
Zani,
is that you guys are
Jake,
part of a Q&A, so you can do the Q&A. Send us your questions, so that way you can get your questions answered about anything you'd like.
And we're going to post November's at the end of this month, so check out patreon.com for that. Also, the new thing we're adding to the housekeeping here on the Onside Kick and MVP is if you're listening on iTunes or you have iTunes, go rate the podcast. The Onside Kick, the Fast Break.
Doesn't matter if you have iTunes or not. It doesn't? I mean, well, you should hopefully have iTunes, but you don't have to listen to it on iTunes.
You can do it.
Even if you listen on YouTube or Stitcher or anything, go find us on iTunes.
I thought iTunes, you had to have it on your phone. For Stitcher, you got it. Android can only do Stitcher. And
it doesn't
iPhone
have to be
can only do.
Anybody can have an iTunes account. I mean, anybody can do that. But go find us there and rate and review. You don't really have to write anything if you don't want to. Just give us
us that 5 stars.
It does help us
for
out
all
though.
the podcasts. It
does
Onside Kick first, but then all of them.
It does help us out because that way we get a little bit more in the search engines and stuff like that.
So go ahead, do that for us. Housekeeping is over, and we got a jam-packed show, Mark, today. We're finally talking about a topic where it has been on the shelf for, I want to say, 3 weeks. I want to say the second of the 3 you were off, I pitched it to Brandon.
Yep.
He was like, nah. That next week, he said, nah, again. And then last week, you were like, I don't think I want to talk about it. We're finally going to talk about the Eagles.
That the Eagles have still been an almost conversation for this long is kind of a big deal.
So we're going to talk about the Eagles and their chances to win the NFC East. Then we're going to look at the Atlanta Falcons, a complete flip of the coin, and what is wrong in Atlanta. Then before we make our picks, we're going to look at the Chargers. Are they the scariest team in the AFC West? And then we make our Week 8 picks for this week in the NFL. But Mark, we're looking at the Eagles first. I'm just going to ask you straight out. Carson Wentz has been doing a phenomenal job this year. He's your fantasy quarterback. Gave you what? You said 33? 33
I don't remember
points
exactly
this week?
how many, but it was a lot.
He gave you a ton of points last night. The Eagles are 5-1. I will ask you straight up, will the Eagles win the NFC East this year?
I think they will. I'm very high on the Eagles. I actually was high on the Eagles before the season started. So all y'all on the bandwagon, I'm in the front of the bandwagon. I was into this team before.
Hey, I'm right there. The only reason I didn't have them winning the division was because I had a certain team in your division to give the little kiss of death to.
I'm pretty sure I had them as the second seed behind only the Green Bay Packers, who probably won't make it now. So go Eagles here.
I know I had them as a road wildcard team. That's what I had the Eagles.
It's been a really great season for the Eagles so far. I mean, they've been doing everything you want them to do. They're beating division opponents like the Redskins and the Giants. Not that the Giants is much to brag about.
Thanks, Mark.
Only big loss here is the Chiefs, and the Chiefs are a good team. A really good team, so it's not a joke to lose.
It's only a touchdown loss to the Chiefs.
For sure, and they're a team who is getting a lot of passing, getting a lot of running yards, scoring a ton of points. They're averaging about 4 touchdowns a game. That's a pretty big deal. you kind of look at this team, and sure, they still got to play the Cowboys a couple of times. They're going to play the Raiders later. They got to run into Mitch Trubisky's Chicago Bears. That's going to be a bad one for them.
I think I'll give it to Carson Wentz in that one.
I don't know. Mitch is going to throw it 4 times, and that's all that matters. So they do have some tough competition still. They got some good defense like the Broncos, the Seahawks, things like that. But this team has shown, even though the beginning of their schedule is not as strong as it potentially could be, I'm looking at games like the Giants, games like the Cardinals, and the Panthers are a big question mark, even though they played the Eagles tough. But this team is doing everything they need to do to impress. If you are sitting there, if for any reason you at home are doing your own power rankings and the Eagles are not your number 1 team right now, I think there's something wrong.
No, and they should be the number 1 in all power rankings because they are. And I think it was Mark Schlereth on Fox Sports today when I was watching it during work. He said, "I am not afraid to say that the Eagles are the best team in football right now," and I completely agree with him. And the main reason why they are the best team in football is, I know it's not all him. They've got a great offensive line, and we saw last year with the Cowboys, especially during the regular season, what you can do with a great offensive line, and not taking anything away from Dak Prescott, but there's a reason why Carson Wentz was a top 2 pick in the draft and why Dak Prescott's a top 4. Although, like I'm saying, Giant fans don't get mad at me not taking anything away from Dak Prescott and what he did last year. Carson Wentz has been, if you don't have Carson Wentz on this team, I don't think the Eagles are in this situation. Not turning over the ball this year, that's number 1. Only 4 picks on the year, and 2 of those picks were against Washington, in 1 in each game. So the Redskins account for half of those interceptions. But also in the last 3 games, and I get it, Arizona wasn't a big opponent. Like, they didn't have Adrian Peterson then. The Carolina Panthers have been on a skid. They lost to your Chicago Bears this past weekend.
As many teams will. And the Washington
Redskins could not beat the Philadelphia Eagles again this season. The last 3 games, 4, 3, and 4, are his touchdown numbers. So it looks like as the season's going on, the wide receivers that they went out and got, they got Torrey Smith, they got Alshon Jeffrey.
Yeah, paying off.
Like Aguilar, moving him to the slot. I had to pick him up in fantasy last week because I'm like, holy crap, this is a guy
he's not dropping the ball.
Everyone was like, oh my God, he's a bust. And then this year, hey, let's move him into the slot because we got these great outside receivers, and it's been the resurgence of Nelson Aguilar on this Eagles team.
Now, I want to, first let me say that last week I was saying, and I still stand by this, that right now, Eagles are my favorite team in the NFC.
Oh, of course.
They're number 1 right now.
I kind of want to say weak NFC.
Yeah, weak, kind of hit by injuries quite a bit. So much so where I think it was, you could see this, I think it was on NFL memes on Facebook, but it originally came from Reddit's all IR team. Yeah. They've already filled the roster essentially on the IR team on Reddit. But anyways, it's been decimated by injury. But the thing I want to say about this was they're my favorite team right now. I don't know if I'm going to say that they're my favorite team at the end of the season. I still, without a doubt, they're a playoff team. They're not going to go out there and now lose the next 9 games. But hold on, let me get to one thing. The thing that I want to pump some brakes on, you mentioned it exactly, is the offensive line, how good it's been. But with Jason Peters being injured now and Jason Peters being gone for the season, left tackle,
well, that's going to be huge.
That's terrifying.
That's going to be huge because now Lane Johnson, I believe, is going to move over from right tackle to left tackle.
And Lane Johnson is not a guy I want to put a lot of confidence on.
Really?
on the blind side for me.
I think Lane Johnson, put him anywhere, I'm happy he's on my offensive line. He is the best player on that offensive line. There's a reason why they went out and re-signed him this season, and he took a pay cut so they can get guys like Alshon Jeffrey.
It's just when you move a guy... And I'm from Chicago. I'm used to my offensive linemen playing every single position possible. Move a guy,
except Roberto Garza. He's the center.
Wow, I wish Garza was still around.
Remember Gabe Karimi?
Yeah, those are good days. It's sad. I just think of when I have a guy who's so focused on, he's on the right side, he's going to lead a lot of times, on the run. To then shift him over to the blind side where he's going to be so focused on pass protection. It's just a scary transition. And I'm not trying to sit here and knock on Lane Johnson or anything. I'm just saying that I'm nervous about taking someone who's doing great here and moving them over there. And to the complete opposite where you're doing something very different. And there's not really an option to go out into free agency and grab somebody.
I would be worried if it wasn't Lane Johnson. Only because, like I said, Lane Johnson to me, best player on this line. If there's anyone that could switch sides and do it effortlessly is what I'm trying to say, it'd be Lane Johnson. Also, when you say when you're on the right side, you're pushing forward, opening up for that run game instead of pass protection on the left. You don't need Lane Johnson on the right because the running back that you have in LeGarrette Blunt's blunt force trauma.
Yep.
He going to do it all himself. Just give him the ball, and he's going to try to plow right through that line. It's not like you have a finesse back there, and you're like, ooh, we have to look pretty. No, you've got a nose runner that's just going to pound the hole, go right at the line. So because of that, I'm not super worried about the move for Johnson from right to left.
To me, it's really the big part of it is just losing Jason Peters is huge. I mean, he's one of the best.
Just in general.
He's one of the best left tackles in the NFL right now playing. And part of it's just his offensive line's doing great.
Yeah.
And you start moving things around, and not everybody's going to be, a Kyle Long that can be a Pro Bowl tackle and then a Pro Bowl guard the next year. It's a difficult thing to do. So that's one reason why I say I'm just a little nervous in the future, just because the offensive line gets shaken up a little bit. And with a guy who's being so good right now, in Carson Wentz and also the running game, that's a big hit for those two. The next thing is just simply, sure, they're going to play the 49ers. They're going to play the Bears still. They're going to play the Giants again.
Well, like I was going to ask you.
The rest of the season is tough.
The thing I was going to ask you, leaving the Raiders and the Seahawks, and I'll throw the Rams in there right now because it's on the road and the Rams have played well this year.
They've been looking good.
With Sean McVay.
We'll see how it holds up when it comes to December.
The thing I was going to ask you is the two biggest games for me. How are you going to do against the Cowboys? And the thing that's interesting is we have either three outcomes to this question of, is Zeke going to play both games? Is Zeke going to miss the first game, or is Zeke going to miss the last game? Because there's a chance that he misses one of them, but there's also the chance that, like Deflategate, this suspension and this can just keeps getting kicked down the road.
Yeah, it kind of seems like if I was going to bet on it right now, and I had,
playing the whole year,
I would put it on he's playing the whole year. But you just don't know, and that of course is a scary reality for Cowboys fans out there. To me, you have so many questions, about this whole rest of the season. Is Trevor Siemian going to bounce back to be good? Because if so, he can maybe go toe-to-toe just because of that defense.
Yeah.
But the defense hasn't been as impressive as it has in a couple of years past. The Seahawks, they're going to play the Seahawks in December at Seattle. That is terrifying. The Rams, we'll see how they hold up. The same thing with the Raiders. But this Cowboys team, if the Cowboys can start to kind of bounce their way back, they're only 2 games back. They're 3-3 right now, which does not look anywhere near as impressive as 6-1.
Yeah.
But at the end of this season, if they're not losing very many games and they're still only 2 games back, that's a big deal, because then they are fighting to get into the playoffs, and they might have to fight with a lot of teams in the NFC, because right now there's a lot of teams in the NFC that are going to sit in that wild card spot, and they're going to need that Week 17 game really badly against the Eagles. And not that a Week 17 game is going to knock out the Philadelphia Eagles. I still had this team probably at
1 or 2.
I think, honestly, I see them probably a 13-3 team. 12-4 is honestly my worst spot for them. That's assuming they lose both games to the Cowboys. And then probably the Seahawks and maybe the Raiders. I really don't see them losing that many games. I do think they'll probably split with the Cowboys. I think they're going to lose the first one. I think they'll come back and they'll win the last one and probably knock the Cowboys out of the playoffs. I do think that the Seahawks will get the better of them. And then it's kind of a toss-up between how are the Rams doing and how are the Broncos doing. Which one of those teams can get a a loss, or do the Eagles just steamroll over both of them and become that 13-3 team? Mm-hmm. Any of it's certainly possible right now.
What if they, and this is hypothetical, this is me going on fly, Eagle, fly juice here. Mm-hmm. What if they just power through the rest of the season and go 15-1?
Then you got to be a little bit nervous about that Cam Newton juju out there of the last time it happened when a team steamrolled through the season.
If they go 15-1, there's only one Super Bowl I want to see then.
What's that?
Chiefs-Eagles. I want to see the rematch. I want to see Carson Wentz. Could you
I would
imagine
love to see
that?
The Chiefs in,
could you imagine
in the playoffs?
The Chiefs
in the Super Bowl.
Andy Reid playing his former team in the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. Alex Smith getting to a Super Bowl, and if he wins, can shut Sean Anderson up because Sean Anderson thinks he's overrated.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sean. Then you have the Carson Wentz. Second year. Are you going to win the Super Bowl in your second year? Are you going to prove the people like me right that said you are better than Jared Goff coming out of college? I would love the storylines going into that Super Bowl.
That doesn't prove anything because they're both only in their second year.
But if Carson Wentz wins the Super Bowl in his second year,
it looks great.
You're telling me that people wouldn't think that.
Oh, they would think it because, if Carson Wentz wins today and Jared Goff loses today, people are going to assume he's the better quarterback. If it flips, they're going to assume that Jared Goff's the better quarterback. That's the way it works. Just go to any team's subreddit and you'll see the fluidity of fans' opinions. Anyways, things look so hot in Eagle Land, and an interesting topic of conversation, which was brought up by you've met him on Patreon if you're a patron, Sean's cousin Ben, who in our group chat said that he believes Carson Wentz is currently the best quarterback in the NFC. I think that's an interesting point because
with Aaron Rodgers injured.
I don't have anybody to disagree with him with.
Well, especially we're just talking this year, right?
Yeah, we're talking right now.
I mean,
you're saying he's the best. Well, and I don't think I would disagree if Aaron Rodgers hurt.
Well,
taking Aaron Rodgers out of the conversation, I can't put anybody else above him.
No, I can't either because Dak and that Cowboy team have not looked like the Dak and the Cowboy team last year. Not. They do have a stronger schedule, though, this year, an opposing schedule.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins has not looked like the guy we saw last year. Eli Manning definitely looks like
he's gone.
I'm seeing articles about, should the Giants draft a quarterback
this
draft?
Not too long ago, I had a little tweet right before the Chargers and Giants game saying, I just got a feeling both these teams are drafting their replacements in this coming draft.
Here's the only thing. The only quarterback right now that, and maybe this is a little bit more pedigree-wise of what he's done over his career, but also because they're at 4-2.
Yeah.
Drew Brees. He's the only.
Drew Brees is the one that I think you have an argument with.
He's the only one that if you said, no, Drew Brees is better, I would say, all right, they've got one more loss, but you know what? With what Drew Brees is and the skills that he has and how many yards he puts up each year, I wouldn't tell you you're wrong.
Yeah, I think that's the best argument. You can try and say, you can try and put Matt Ryan in there, but Matt Ryan hasn't had that great of a season so far.
It baffles me how the Saints are 4-2. Baffles me.
Well, this
how
defense has decided that they want to play.
It confuses me. I know we got tweets on at Most Valuable Pod that we need to apologize. I believe you're talking to me because I had this team 5-11. I had them 5-11. They're 4-2.
I had them in as 8-8 team, which I think is respectable, and I think they'll be about. But the one thing I want to say, actually,
the one thing before you say that, with the Eagles, because I looked it up, I had them 9-7. You had them 10-6.
10-6.
Both of us had them second in the division.
So not as good. I had them second. Oh, because I actually did believe in the Cowboys.
You had the Cowboys at 11-5, one win over.
So I was off of my whole second. I had the second part right, just not second in the NFC.
Yeah.
I did like the Eagles though. And anyways, the Drew Brees conversation. I just want to point out Drew Brees. Less yards, less touchdowns, same amount of interceptions, lower quarterback rating. Yeah. So right now, Carson Wentz,
And here's the thing I like about the Eagles moving forward in their competition. The one side of the ball we have not looked at yet is their defense. Right now, their defense
they went crazy in the draft on defense, too.
They're a top 12 defense right now in points scored. They're only giving up 20.9 points per game. And I look at the teams whose offenses score that much, and right now you have the top 18 offenses score. The Vikings are exactly at 20.9, which is great for this example.
Yeah.
But then look at the teams that they may have that they will play. The Raiders are only at 22.1. Seattle's only at they're at 22.3. Then you have Dallas. They're actually the highest at 26.8. However, Philly is averaging 28.4 points per game. So I know this is all stat-wise, and I know people have said, well, you can't just look at the stats. But just looking at that, as long as this defense can keep to 20 points, I'll even give you 27. You don't let offenses score more than 28 points, this offense will be able to do enough to win you games.
And the only real offenses on the rest of the Eagles' schedule that scare me is, of course, Dallas.
Well, Dallas is because they scored the most points per game of anyone left.
And Jared Goff has been, well, not just Jared Goff, but the LA Rams have been doing good things out there too. And then you always had Derek Carr, which I do still believe Raiders will bounce back and have a good end of the season.
You know what? Scratch that. I forgot about the Rams. They're number 1 at 30.3. So put the Rams and Dallas in there. The Rams might be a team that could, that's the game. That is the game to watch for the storyline of, 1 and 2 going at each other.
Yeah,
we saw Jameis and Mariota go at it their rookie year. This isn't rookie year, but basically for Jared Goff,
it's
your
basically
rookie
Jared
year.
Goff's rookie year. If the pattern holds, Carson Wentz will win that game because the second is beating the first.
But the thing I also look at, and this is why winning the division is so important to this team, I look at the playoff kind of standings right now. If this team, to me, gets first in the NFC, I don't know if any team can beat them at home in the NFC because, even the two that would be in right now, Seahawks, if you play them in Philly, I'm giving it to Philly. The Packers, I'm sorry, Brett Hundley is not going to walk into Philly and win that game. Even like the Saints, the Rams, the Vikings, who you can see later, the Vikings might give them the best shot, but I think that they could not walk, but they can go to the Super Bowl if they get that number 1 seed and have home field throughout.
Yeah, I mean, Case Keenum, I don't think he's going to go toe-to-toe with Carson Wentz.
Teddy could be back by that time.
It's possible, and if they're in the playoff hunt, they'll probably bring him back. I mean, who would have thought at the beginning of the season, all the fans of these teams shut up, but who would have thought that the Philadelphia Eagles, the Minnesota Vikings, the LA Rams, and the New Orleans Saints would be leading
Remember
the
how
NFC?
many people laughed at me when I had the Vikings at 6?
Well, it's a joke.
Remember how many people laughed and said, get out of here, you're a Viking fan, just for having them 6th?
Yeah, it's a joke.
I know there's an Aaron Rodgers injury that plays into that. Also, funny thing, did you see the tweet from Adam Schefter before this Sunday's game? Brett Hundley, and this is a fun fact if you don't know, Brett Hundley is only the second quarterback ever to start named Brett. I think you know who the other one is.
Yeah. There was something I can't remember. I forgot what 2 teams it was, but it was something with the Eagles, or not the Eagles, the Falcons playing somebody. It might have been the Bucks, I don't know. But it was just listing all the players with the name of Matt, and they all had jersey numbers 10 and under.
Really?
And there were no other Matts on either team, which I thought was funny.
Was it
I
the
don't remember
Dolphins?
who it was. Don't remember.
Because they have Matt Moore.
Don't remember who it was.
Well, because I don't know if the Falcons have played the Bucks. I know they played the Dolphins.
They will at some point.
Yeah, they will.
Sure.
They'll play them twice.
I don't remember who the other team was, but it was fun.
Any final thoughts you have on the Eagles before we move into the team you just mentioned, the Falcons?
Yeah, I think it's just really that the Eagles are they're on an absolute tear, and Carson Wentz is saying, I am, because Aaron Rodgers is hurt. Tom Brady's someday going to fall off that cliff. Eli Manning just did. Philip Rivers is not going to be around too much longer either. He's saying, yeah, y'all can shut up about Mitch Trubisky. I'm the future of the NFL.
I'm the future?
That's what this season's about.
And the last thing that I wanted to bring up is who would have thunk 2 years ago? Think back to 2 years ago.
Yep.
Who was the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles?
Good old Chip Kelly.
High-flying Chip Kelly, and how they were doing and why he was fired. How many people thought 2 years ago they're going to draft the future quarterback? They're going to bring in Doug Peterson, who I believe he came from Kansas City. So that would add into that storyline if they made it to the Super Bowl. I think he came from Kansas City. I could be wrong, and he could have just been moved up in the Eagles organization. But who would have thunk they'd be where they're at right now 2 years ago when it was this team sucks, Chip Kelly's horrible, get him the hell out of here. Who would have thought? That's all I'm saying. This is where you guys come in, though. Let us know down below. What do you guys think? Will the Eagles win the NFC? How far or the NFC East? How far will they go in the playoffs? Because I'll be honest, I don't think they're going to Minnesota Viking it last year. I don't think they're just going to forget how to play football and lose a ton of games, or I would hope not this part of the season. But you guys let us know what you think about anything we talked about with the Eagles.